The silence in the house was suffocating, a brutal contrast to the constant hum of her presence that had always filled it. Lauren, my wife of 7 years, had spoken those dreaded words a month ago. I need space. Her voice was flat, stripped, of the warmth I'd known for so long. It was a Friday night like any other, until it wasn't. One moment we were talking about dinner plans. The next, she was packing a bag, her eyes refusing to meet mine as she dropped the bombshell. I asked, "Of course." What was wrong? Had I done something? But she just shook her head and kept her gaze averted. "I need to think," she said, "about us, about me." And then she was gone. The first week was a haze of confusion and hurt. I replayed our life together, searching for cracks, for the signs I must have missed. Had I been so wrapped up in my own world that I hadn't noticed her, slipping away? By day, I worked my carpentry job, the rhythmic pounding of my hammer offering little solace. By night, the house echoed with her absence. I cooked for one, ate in silence, and stared at the empty side of the bed. I became a ghost in my own home. Then, the anger set in, slow and insidious at first, then building into a raging storm. How dare she just leave like that, leaving me hanging in limbo, drowning in uncertainty? Did she think I was a doormat? Someone she could put on hold while she figured herself out? I poured my frustration into my work, taking on more projects and working longer hours. My hands were raw and bleeding by the end of the day. I started hitting the gym, channeling my pain into muscle, letting the weightlifting become a physical manifestation of my rage. A month later, on a quiet Sunday evening, she walked back through the door as if nothing had happened. Suitcase in hand, a nervous smile on her face. But I didn't rush to greet her, didn't offer a hug or a kiss. I just stood there, watching her, letting her feel the weight of the silence. "I'm back," she said, her voice hesitant. I missed you." I stared at her, the words I wanted to say burning on my tongue, but the anger still simmered beneath the surface. Without a word, I gestured toward the living room, and she stepped inside. But it wasn't the living room she had left behind. During her absence, I had slowly and meticulously transformed it. I'd ripped up the old carpets, revealing the dark, beautiful hardwood underneath, repainted the walls a cool, calming blue, replacing the bland beige we'd always hated. The worn-out furniture was gone, replaced with sleek, modern pieces. The entire space was unrecognizable, but it was what stood in the center of the room that made her gasp. I had gathered our framed memories, the photos of our life together, and lined them up in the middle of the room. They stretched from the floor to the ceiling. But there was one striking difference. Every picture of her had been cut out. Only I remained, the empty spaces where her face should have been creating a gallery of absence. A brutal visual of what she had done. She stared at the wall, the realization dawning in her eyes. The nervous smile faded, replaced by shock and horror. She tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat. "Where were you, Lauren?" I finally asked, my voice low and dangerous. "While you were doing all that thinking, where did you spend the last month?" Her eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape. She opened her mouth, closed it again, and then offered a lie. Said she'd been staying at her sister's place. I smiled, cold and unforgiving. "That's interesting," I said, pulling out my phone. I showed her a picture I'd found after some digging. A photo of her, not at her sister's place, but on a beach, laughing with another man. I had found him too, some smug finance guy from her work, all designer watches and fake smiles. She stared at the photo, her face draining of color. She knew she was caught. "It's not what it looks like," she stammered, her voice trembling. "Oh, I think it's exactly what it looks like," I said, my voice calm, almost gentle. You wanted space. Well, you got it. You got yourself a new guy, a new life. Go live it. She sank to the floor, tears streaming down her face as the weight of her actions crashed down on her, but I just stood there, watching, and for the first time in a long while, I felt nothing. Everything we had was gone, burned away, leaving nothing but a cold, hollow emptiness. Without another word, I walked past her and out the door, her sobs echoing behind me. I didn't look back. I had somewhere else to be. The address I'd found for her new lover led me to a sleek, high-end apartment building downtown. I waited, parked across the street, my mind simmering with rage. When I finally saw him step out, I pulled up, blocking his car in the driveway. The confusion on his face turned to a smug, arrogant grin the moment he recognized me. You must be Lauren's husband, he sneered. She told me about you. That was it. The last spark needed to ignite the fire. I grabbed him by the collar and yanked him out of his car. He was taller, but I was stronger and angrier. My fist connected with his face, and he went down. Hard. But I didn't stop. Kick after kick, I unleashed every ounce of fury and pain I'd been holding back. When I finally stepped away, he lay gasping on the cold concrete, his expensive clothes torn and stained with dirt and blood. Stay away from my wife. My life, I spat, my voice ragged. As I walked away, I felt a strange sense of release. It wasn't the most mature response, but at that moment, I didn't care. Over the next week, the consequences unfolded, and I watched with grim satisfaction. His pristine image was shattered. The affair became public knowledge, and Lauren lost her job for her distraction and poor performance. The fight? Caught on security cameras and shared online. His bruised, battered face went viral. His attempts to deny everything only fueled the fire. His career crumbled. His friends abandoned him. His name became a punchline and a warning, and Lauren. I never saw her again. She didn't even contest the divorce papers. Our story ended quietly, without resistance. But my story? It was just beginning. The pain of betrayal left scars, but they no longer defined me. From the ashes of everything I'd lost, I rebuilt a life that was stronger, wiser, and truly my own. Sometimes destruction clears the way for something greater, and this time, I was ready to rise. Thank you, listener, for walking and listening my story.